Contenders, where we compare two iconic Singaporean and international comic titles of the same theme. At the end, we will rank them according to 3 special tiers and tell you whether we think they deserve the hype.
For viewers who are joining us, who have been following our Red Dot Comics Den podcast series, don't worry, we're still Red Dot Comics Den. It's just that for this special segment, we're turning the focus onto the comic books themselves so that we can make some recommendations and show you the books that we really love.
The 2 superstar comic titles we're talking about today is American Born Chinese and Gone Case, the graphic novel complete edition. To help us with our discussion and also add a bit of extra credibility to the mix, we have with us Eisner-nominated comic artist Andrew Tan. Woo!
Hey.
More of you or many of you would know him as Drewscape.
Yeah, aka Drewscape.
Yes, aka Drewscape. And he's done comics like Monsters, Miracles and Mayonnaise, and also the Ollie Comics. He's very kindly brought some of his books.
This is my old grubby copy. Yes.
Yeah, a lot of autobiographical comics, so he's very familiar with the coming of age theme, which we will be talking about today. So that is the common theme for these 2 books. I think to dive in, let's just start with the first question, right? Which, how would you, with your experience working on, comics about childhood imagination, about youth, how would you describe the comic coming of age theme in 1 sentence?
Coming of age theme. I would describe it as a comic that shows what a character learns as he's growing up.
So with the expectations you've set, you've just said, with your what comic coming of age comics mean to you?
Oh, okay.
Right? So how did that influence your overall reading experience?
Well, actually, when I picked up the comics, I didn't really see it as a coming of age thing. I just saw it as an interesting comic, and one of them is like Eisner winner or something. Yeah. And another one was because I'm good friends with Dave and Hong Teng. So so naturally I read it to see what my friend has been up to. So when I read it, then I realized, it's a coming of age comic. So I didn't really have an expectation, then I just experienced it as I read it.
Yeah. So what was your feeling when you read it? Lingying,
just the feeling. Okay, just the feeling. American Born Chinese. Actually, for these 2 comics, I read it 2 times. One time was several years ago and just before this talk.
Yes.
So American Born Chinese is a lot more light-hearted, and actually after the first time, I kind of forgot what it was, but I remembered that there was I did like the feeling of the adventure that the Monkey King went through. I like almost like a fairy tale fable thing. And then there was this part about the boy learning something, but I think after a few years I lost the point. But I think when I read it again, then I got the point. For Gone Case, both times when I read it, I always have this. I mean, for both times I read it, I had this heavy feeling. Like every time I read it, I'll feel like very depressed a bit.
I totally
or down.
man.
Okay, it's not like it'll make you depressed, but just that from my point of view.
I mean, they had like a panel with a full corpse lah. I mean, that's as depressing as it gets if you want to see.
So of course I read it in 2 parts, of course, because it's a very long book. But both times, I remember this time I read this one, right? This thick book. Maybe I read halfway before I sleep. Then I'll go to sleep. Then I'll wake up in the morning and I'll just feel like very sad. Then I'll go to the next part.
Emotional aftermath.
Yeah, for a few days. But somehow, my 9-year-old daughter has been liking reading comics more, I think, influenced by me. And she actually read it through 2 times.
Whoa.
And she actually liked it. So I don't know how.
Yeah.
I don't know what she picked up, but she actually enjoyed it. She said it's good.
Does she because she's in school now, right? So the main character is a student as well. Does she maybe like relate to the character, you think?
I didn't ask her. But sometimes she reads deeper comics and she's okay with it. So actually, I didn't read it first. I bought it from this time I borrowed the thick one from the library. So I let her read it first. Then I read it. Then I realized, oh no, it's like some parts are quite
It's like, rated.
quite heavy, but somehow she just went through it. So I mean, she picks up from her level of picking up. So
Yeah, that's really impressive. Actually, when you're younger and your parents let you read comic books, you don't actually, I think a lot of times they don't filter enough what you're reading. Like for me, when I was 7 or 8 years old, I was reading comics about like Chinese emperors torturing their subjects.
Oh,
and,
I remember.
eunuchs getting their
Actually,
testicles
very
cut off.
interesting.
And I was a bit like, oh, okay, like these things happen. And it was only when I was much older I realized that actually that was not really age appropriate.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also think that with something like Gone Case, for example, is about a student. So it perhaps makes sense that students read it, and maybe these comics are not meant to limit people.
Yeah, I mean, Gone Case, the main character is a 12-year-old boy. He's 12. It's just interesting because when I looked at the comic itself, like I was reading it, he looked older than 12 and he was going through like life experiences that were definitely way more than a 12-year-old should be going through. Like he was going, like his grandma died lah, then he saw gang fights lah, a 12-year-old boy was going through like a lot at that age, and he still has to do PSLE. So if you're not Singaporean, right, PSLE basically means that at the end of when you're 12 years old, when you're primary 6, you have to take a primary school leaving exam. I don't know about kids now, but back then, from when the book was written, this was a pretty big deal because it kind of determined what school you were going to go to for secondary school. No, because I think it might have changed. They changed it a little bit now in terms of like the kind of exam structure, right?
What's the system like now actually?
I don't know. My kid's primary 3, so I'll deal with it 3 years later.
Okay.
Yeah, I think what they took away was the point system, and then also they tried to have. Someone needs to educate us on this subject because we're totally not experts.
I'm not at that age to think about kids and their PSLEs.
Yeah, but basically it'll determine which secondary school you go to, right? And there's always
it's a big deal.
Waiting list and stuff.
Yeah, so in the comic, the parents are constantly like, you gotta study for your exams. Don't hang out with this kid because he's a bad influence. He's causing your grades to drop. So that causes a rift between the main character and also, his friends lah. And similarly here also we have a young guy. He's in high school. So both are like coming into it, like trying to figure themselves out. He's trying to figure out his identity in school, like as an American Chinese person. While here he's like on the cusp of like trying to break into, like trying to go to figure out what his next step in life is lah.
Yeah, really. Can I point out something that I noticed? Actually, for both the books, it's the same. It's actually from the start to the end of the comic, the character actually grows older and older.
Yes.
So the start, the boy is 12 years old, but towards the end, he's a lot taller and his face changed. And actually, same for the other story, the American-born Chinese.
Yeah. So you can see how like it kind of describes what Andrew mentioned about seeing someone grow, and from then that becoming a big defining point of a coming of
over
age
a few
story.
years.
Yeah. Like, what do you think about the story itself, actually? Because we've talked a bit about the main characters. So this main character's name is called Yong, and this guy, the main human character, like we're not talking about the other stories that are part of it. The main character is called Jin Wang. What do you think about how these comics handled the story? Because they're quite different. Like this American-born Chinese is 3 stories. This one is quite straightforward.
Yeah, there's a lot to say.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Where do I start? Okay, I can start with, I try to be objective.
Yeah, sure.
So the American-born Chinese, that one felt like a more mainstream structure that is you can see in more like mainstream movies or stories, where the character starts off at an uncomfortable place and then he has to learn something. And then towards the end, he learns it, and then he gets to the place where he wants to be, in a better place. So the first part, he's not comfortable. The last part, he's comfortable, but he has to learn something to break through to the last part.
Yeah, it's a hero's journey.
Yeah, it's a hero's journey, very primal journey. Where for Gone Case, I want to say it very carefully because my friends Dave and Hong Teng will be watching. Anyway, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Later on over coffee. So this one, I felt like after reading it, the journey, there wasn't much of it. Okay, there was a bit of a journey, but I felt like it stayed in Act 1, and it felt like more of a social commentary where the boy was in an uncomfortable situation, and this is what he was going through in that first situation, and this is what he all the things he was learning, and he was trying to put everything together, and it just ends there. This is how a boy who's growing up is faced with, and it ends there. It allows you to just let you think what's going to happen to this boy, or how does it relate to me, and what am I learning at the same time that's similar to this boy. So I feel it's more of giving a statement and a social commentary, when the other one is about that there's a bit of a there's a problem, and the story kind of reveals there's actually a solution to this problem. And when I read it, I feels like if I'm for example, if I'm like this boy, right, I have this problem where I can't fit in, and this kind of story would give me some kind of hope or a light at the end of the tunnel. It's like, okay, if I believe the same thing in this boy, I would find that solution. So it offers you a solution. The other one, Gone Case, doesn't really offer you a solution. It kind of leaves it up to you, open-ended, for you to figure it out. But I realized that the solution is actually scattered here and there, but it's not spelled out very clearly.
Yeah, it's quite subtle, the way they kind of impart its morals compared to like this one, which is very straightforward. Like, okay, don't reject your culture because it is such a deep part of you, kind of thing.
As in what you said about the story structure, it kind of leads us to think about the intention of the story, and then the target, not say target audience, but just the kind of effect and relationship is meant to have with the reader. Like I think for American-born Chinese, it's more simple, more straightforward. Gone Case is really there's a lot of things being talked about. And also not so directly. That's the kind of impression I got, at least. I felt American-born Chinese was much more direct in talking about the issues, and then Gone Case was kind of it's a bit more zoomed out. It's showing you like a lot of things, and then it's up to you to kind of put it together.
But what do you think was the main message of each of the, like, if Gone Case was giving you a statement and American-born Chinese was giving you a message to learn, what do you think it was?
So my impression was that American-born Chinese is created by Lingying, and it's obviously autobiographical to some extent. And I think it's for him to talk to other kids with the same experience. Whereas Gone Case, I'm not sure it's just for kids going through the same experience. Because I imagine, like what we discussed earlier, I don't think necessarily students will naturally pick up this title. And also, I think it's also quite intended for adults to read also. So it's kind of if it's for adults to read, then it's not for us to find ourselves in the book. It's for us to look at these issues and then have some sort of reckoning with the Singapore or the society that's being shown. So it's to me that's a different kind of expectation on the reader, different relationship with the reader.
You couldn't find yourself in that one.
Maybe it's a bit hard for me to relate to Gone Case because I don't know, my parents didn't have a lot of expectations for me for studies, and also I was lucky that I did well in school. And I mean, I grew up in a family with a lot of books, and you know, like we didn't make studies a priority, but somehow I did well in school. So a lot of the things that happen in Gone Case to me is like, it's a bit hard for me to relate to. I'm going to be very clear that
No,
this
which
is
is
like
fine.
totally my privileged position in Singaporean society. But yeah, like I didn't relate to that. Similarly, I didn't really relate to things in American-born Chinese because
You're not American?
I'm not
Yeah.
American-born Chinese. Yeah.
I actually thought
Yeah.
like the way he divorced both sides of his culture so separately was kind of hard to relate to. It's quite interesting because for us, we are also a fairly westernized society. Like we're not a Western society, but English is one of our main languages, and we primarily communicate in English. We consume Western media a lot, but our relationship with our, like, say our Chineseness is not as separated in that way. But like we feel Chinese, but we still communicate in English.
Oh, wait,
However, even though you're not American born Chinese, right? Could you relate to the experience of being ashamed of who you presently perceive yourself to be and feeling rejected, kind of feeling?
Yeah, so I think for me, I found that the emotions were shown more simply in American-born Chinese, so I could relate to that. For example, like, not fitting in school,
Yeah.
like other kids picking on you. I think I could relate to those emotions quite immediately. But I think in Gone Case, right, the emotional expression was more nuanced and is kind of more slowly presented.
Yeah.
So in a way, I couldn't catch, I guess, like there are some moments, but it's not as direct as, oh, you know, a kid picked on me and he felt bad. I also can relate to that experience.
Yeah, and it is showing a person a kid who is in a not so fortunate environment, because I think there was a metaphor of this plant growing the drain, and I think the boy and his friend commented that it's just that, I don't know, is it just unlucky that the bird dropped the seed into the drain, and that's why it grew on the side of the drain under a drain cover, and that's just his lot in life. That's how he started, and so it's just going to be difficult for him. So yeah. Remember, I just asked you just now, like, what do you think was the message? Because I have something in mind. Just wanted to see whether you got the same thing.
Okay, my impression of the message was, like, be yourself. Yeah, which I think is it's a positive message, and is definitely for other American-born Chinese or American-born Asian kids in America.
Be yourself.
Yeah, like be yourself and be don't be ashamed of who you are and be true to yourself.
Yeah, you don't have to reject your difference, and that is part of who you are.
Yeah. So I got that too. I mean, it was almost like it was about, the message was it's like, don't be ashamed of who or God created you to be, because in this one, it seems like this one in this story brings in the role of the creator. So you see it from a cosmic level, and then down to the earthly level. But Gone Case felt like it's from earthly level, and you're looking up into the heavens, but you don't know what's happening, and you're just on the earth level and trying to figure things out.
That is a very interesting way of putting it.
Yeah, so it goes with, there's God, there's the celestial beings, and then it goes down to and so there's this thing about, then this God in this one, he's saying that I created you for this purpose. And in this one, I got the message because the monkey wanted to be more than a monkey, and he was transforming himself into something not a monkey, something almost human. And then God actually put him under a pile of rocks, imprisoned him for 500 years. And his lesson he had to learn was he only can break free of that imprisonment if he transforms back into the monkey, and then he could really be who God purposed him to be and really be happy and find meaning. And then the Monkey King, so am I giving away too much?
Yeah, okay, we'll say spoiler alert at the start.
Spoiler alert. And then the Monkey King had to relate, to tell the boy in the story that same lesson, that although you're Chinese, you don't have to be more than a Chinese. You just need to be Chinese and be who God created you to be.
Yeah.
And then finally, when he learned that lesson, then he could find peace with himself.
Yeah.
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 So,
Actually, I love that you picked up on the spiritual element because it exists in both books. There's a definite. I mean, it's part of all our lives anyway, right? So it makes a lot of sense that I guess for one story it was like quite a focal point, like the story of the monkey god, and I guess like there's definitely the story of him growing up, and then there's also that story of the Monkey King's evolution. And in a way, both are telling the same story with the same message.
the same story, yeah.
Yeah, and reinforcing it in this very interesting and playful way, I feel.
Yeah, and then he jumbled up the sequence of the entire. Actually, it's one whole story. It starts with the Monkey King and then the boy transforming, and then the boy transforming back. It's actually one story, but he jumbled up the sequence so that you couldn't tell. You thought it's 3 stories, but actually it's 1 story.
Yes. Yeah. That
Which was really clever.
Yeah. Actually, I really loved it. It felt very, I don't know, it just felt very, I mean, we know now that American Born Chinese is a TV show, right?
Yes.
It's on Disney+. When I was reading, I was like, this is made for a TV series. This would be so good as an animated movie, or it would be so good as like a 3D animation plus live action kind of movie, like those like the Enter the Spider-Verse movies.
Yeah.
And I think like the way we can talk about how the art style for each comic would influence the kind of storytelling that we're doing, because they're very different.
Right.
Like with American Born Chinese, it's quite like they do this thing with like squares, kind of like a seal. While for this one, it's kind of almost like Watchmen with the paneling, just very structured.
Oh.
So like, what did you think about the art style and whether this aligned with the kind of storytelling that you've been talking about?
Oh, I actually like the seal. The seal is really nice touch. I feel like, and I read out about it in the credit. He actually got a real seal maker, probably a famous one, to do the seals, and it's different. It has a nice Chinese touch. So everything is actually in a square format, but the comic is actually in a rectangle format with the seal. So just the art structure, the comic structure. American Born Chinese, it has a narrative. So there's a narrator talking. So you see the narrative bar. Gone Case doesn't have. It's almost like you just see scene by scene and nobody really explains things for you, which actually contributes to the story because it's about you figuring out stuff for yourself.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, huh? What happens here? And I was like, what's going on? Okay, then I have to go read. And it's like, okay, it's just figuring out stuff for yourself. Nobody's gonna help you.
Yeah, it contributes to that
Contributes
sense
to the
of,
message.
Yeah, it contributes to that sense of like loneliness or like despairing that the character is going through also.
Yeah, I have to say it also contributes to that feeling of this life being quite mundane and simple, because he doesn't vary up the paneling a lot, only until later where there's like a gang fight and then suddenly you see like everything starts moving very, very fast. But throughout the paneling is fairly slow. Yeah.
And Gone Case has a very nice cinematographic effect.
Yes.
Things like, for example, like just at the hawker scene, you just see the boy and then you just see the hands, like the people serving in front of him. And also like the first part is about a bird flying and then you don't know what's the... And actually it's from the perspective of the bird. So yeah, good job, Hong Teng.
Yeah. Honestly, I think the art is really... it's like what you say, it's almost cinematic.
Yes,
it varies a lot, and there's a lot of filmography tricks in there, like the bird eye view, the close up to show you where the eye is going.
Yeah. And Hong Teng seems to love details.
Yes.
And I mean, he brought me to his studio, his desk, and he does every... Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. He does everything like 4 times. So it's like he has four stages to his drawings. He draws, and after he draws again, then he draws again, and it's very thin brush. So it's all with real brush, not computer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not digital art, like even
No, it's real brush. I'm not sure about now, but I know at that time he was doing this. It should be a real brush, Chinese brush.
Wow.
Yeah.
No wonder it's so textured. I think this is a good point for us to start our ratings. Let me just explain what our ranking system is. It's a bit different. So the first one is... this is the first one. The first one is can lah. So basically, it means it was okay. This was a moderately enjoyable read. And then the second one is best. So what this means is I like it a lot. I had a good time, right?
And in some ways, it's the best.
Yes. And then the third one is shook. So this means, this was so amazing. I basically felt my soul kind of leave my body. Like, wow. I will not be able to sleep, that kind of level.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about not being able to sleep because?
Okay,
So
I think shook. As in, it's different for everybody.
It can be different.
Maybe for
Your
for-
interpretation
Maybe for
of
me
shook.
it's awesome. Then for Andrew it's something different. If your soul never left your body before, then it's not about your soul leaving your body.
The equivalent of your soul leaving your body in your own, interpretation. Yeah. Okay, so let's just do this in a 3-2-1 way. The first one being American-born Chinese. Okay? Okay. Ready, We prepare answer, okay? 3, 2, 1. Ooh.
So for me, I really like American-born Chinese because I've actually read the same artist's other book. He had one that was like a superhero story.
Shadow Hero.
Shadow Hero, yeah. And I mean, I've read like coming of age stories in comic format, and in this case, I felt like he really did it very well. The story was relatable. I mean, it made me relate to my own experiences, even though I'm not American. And I really like the monkey god story as well. So the whole thing just felt like a very enjoyable, fun read. Didn't stress me out, but it kind of gave me a good emotional experience and also taught me something about, you must accept and love yourself. So I thought it was really good. I would recommend it to, say like my Asian friends in America who are raising kids today. Like, I would recommend this book to them.
Oh yeah, I chose this one, right? The American-born Chinese, because I like stories that teach me something that I can actually apply to my life, which is being who I'm made to be, not be ashamed of something. So I like stories that have a hope, a solution that offers some kind of light. So I like inspires me. And I like how the technical aspects of how it was put together, how he jumbled up the story even after the chop thing, and everything was felt like it's meticulously put together. So I could sleep, but I could sleep happy.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Yeah. For me, actually, I chose best. Not because it was like bad, but I think for me, I had so much expectations going in that I feel like that might have tempered with my own experience of the book. Because it's such like it's like a show is made out of it. It's such a big deal, won all these awards. And I agreed with everything you guys said about like the story structure and everything. So when I went in there, somehow I felt like I expected like a little bit more in terms of the the kind of messaging, because the messaging is very simple, but I almost expected it to add like more additional layers, like more commentary, not just like I accept this as who I am now. While that was kind of where he left it as. It was the most, I guess, at that time when it was in the 2000s, that kind of messaging for Asian Americans was very important. But I guess now for me, when I'm reading it in 2023, the nuances and the experiences of Asian Americans are different. So I thought I would expect more. But it's no fault of the work, because it was still really good for the kind of message that it was trying to make. Yeah. So that's just why I had best instead of shook.
Yeah, that's quite interesting, because I think that reminds us that, like the works also reflect the society at the time and the experiences of the creator of a certain era. So in a way, like they are kind of time specific.
Yes.
And then I guess American-born Chinese in 20 years ago versus now is a very different label with very different implications, with different stories to tell. So people don't really think that Chinese people eat dogs, dog meat.
Like some of the stereotypes, like now at least we are a bit more aware of. People try to, be kinder. Like hopefully clearly there's still a lot of issues in the States with regards to just AAPI representation, but overall, I think people try to be a bit more aware. And yeah, so it was, I think, still a really, really good story. All right, are we ready for Gone Case ranking?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. 3, 2, 1. Oh, okay.
Who's the odd one now?
Andrew's a very good friend.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not.
Shook.
I only
Why
not
shook?
saying that just because I'm friends with Dave
Mhm.
and Hong Teng.
Mm.
Yeah. What do I say?
Yeah. So you can go
Yeah.
first.
Oh yeah, it's because not that I had a wonderful experience. I just had it's like a very sad experience reading it.
Mm.
But I think that's a sign of a good story because it stays with you even after you read it.
Mm.
It does have an impact. So an emotional impact, and I think stories have an emotional impact are pretty strong. Yeah.
Yeah. It's true. Okay.
That's
Ling.
actually so my reason why I put best is because of that emotional impact. I also like that the story has an emotional impact and that it's told very well. Like definitely the art is great, the story is great, the characters are great. So for me, why I didn't put shook was because it was literally not a shook experience for me. It kind of made me sad and it felt very heavy to read through. I still think that it has that literary merit though. Like I would say this is something that everybody should read at least once. But for myself, after reading it once, I was like, okay, like, yeah, you're right. It can't, the feeling kind of stays with you for a couple of days after that. And then I was like, oh man, like, it's a little bit down, a bit of a downer for me. So that's why I can only really call it best and not like shook.
But it shook you, but it's not shook.
Yeah. It's shooking, and I think it's like a really good work. But it would be very hard for me to say that I like it because I guess my personal taste is also I like funny stories. I like like I think I don't have that much capacity for like really like So that's my perspective. I don't think it's the fault of the artist at all. It's just a personal preference.
Yeah. Same for me. I'm nowadays I'm more in the mood for happier stories. So a lot of the story, like in here, a lot of unhappy things kept happening to the main character again and again, and it is really quite sad. For me, I don't super enjoy stories like that anymore, or at least right now. Maybe because after the pandemic, I just want like some like pick me up, right?
Yeah.
So because when I read a story and it reads consistently sad, then after a while I'm be like, this poor guy, what's the point? Not the point of the story, but it's like, what's the point of like this poor guy? Like, oh my god, like if I were in his place, I would just like want this to end, that kind of feeling, right? So it's just really sad. It's all really good, like the way that he told this story, the social realism. I think they represented that really well. Like if you want to read a really authentic Singaporean comic and really learn about what the Singaporean life is, you can check this graphic novel out. Especially if you're like in the States or you're in Canada, right? If let's say you were a Chinese person there, the kind of like what you're used to experiencing there or like here would be very, very different. So an American-born Chinese would experience Singaporean Chinese living very differently. So that's actually quite, I think for people who want to read it, will be very eye-opening. But for me, maybe also a little bit too slow.
Yeah,
Because
it's
I like the fast-pacedness of American-born Chinese a little bit more. Because I read more entertaining in that way. It's not the fault of the work. I think it serves its purpose. But it's just a personal preference, the kind of stories that I like to read.
Yeah. But then if a person recommending to read Gone Case, right, I think it's also good to look out for the small pieces of hope inside. But you have to find it. Think of it like a treasure hunt.
Yes.
So there's more advice by the mentor guy.
The
It says
popiah seller.
like if you learn the trade, you can make your own destiny. Good or bad, it's up to you. And then there's this boy the man repairing the cabinet, and says that this thing can still work. You just need a little repair, then can use it already. So this small piece of hope.
Yes.
But you need to find it. It's there.
Yeah, it really is.
I really love that Andrew made such detailed notes for today's podcast.
Yeah,
Very
thank
well
you,
prepared.
man. Yeah, I do felt that Poppia scene with where he actually finally set up his trade, because earlier in the story he would have mentioned, this is my dream, I want to be a chef. And then later you find out he becomes a Poppia seller. And he starts talking about like, this is something you can do too. For me, because he's been going through so much, it almost like these pockets of hope hit stronger because you are consistently down. So in some ways, I think it was very effective as well. So I think that's a good place for us to end off today. But before we do that, we have a surprise for our special guest. Yes.
Great. Is it food?
We're shooting over lunchtime.
Yeah, we are shooting.
Not ideal, but fortunately the only time
Can
we have.
do a special unboxing of your gift.
Let me guess. It's a mug.
Oh,
It's the same mug.
no, it's not.
No, it's not.
It's different.
Oh my goodness, it's me.
It's you.
Hey, is this my drawing or you drew it?
We drew a version of
Nadra
your
drew
drawing.
it. Nadra
Yes.
drew
That's
it.
amazing.
So Nadra,
Nadra, well done, Nadra.
Yes.
This is honestly.
I shall use
this is
it.
great.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yay. Yeah, we're glad you like it.
Okay.
This is our special
cannot do
gift
much.
for all our guests.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah,
today.
thank you for coming. Your
Thanks for
insight
having
was
me.
really interesting, and really detailed review that we got from you today.
I like geek studying things.
Yeah. So I think this is a good time for us to end off. If you guys want to, join in on the debate, like talk to us, you can always follow us on Discord, and then check our socials down below in the description box. So thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.